Now, on to our next topic this morning. The burden of cancer has been increasing around the world. Over the past few decades, millions of people worldwide were estimated to have died from one of the various cancers. Unfortunately, more than 2/3 of these deaths are actually occurring in low and middle income countries, such as on the continent of Africa, says the World Health Organization. Now, the most common cancers in the WHO's African region are the cancers of the cervix, breast, liver, and prostate. A new study published by various cancer experts offering unique findings into Africa's cancer challenges. Now, according to these findings, Nigeria has the highest cancer rates in Africa. Moreover, about 80% of these cancer cases lead to future fatalities. Well, joining us now to discuss how we can improve cancer care across the continent is founder and executive director of St. Cyril Treatment Foundation, Mojisola Animashaun. She's also a retired healthcare administrator at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. And also in the studio with us too is Buki Animashaun, a visual artist and social impact investor. Welcome to the morning show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Well, let me first ask a question that is not related to the subject. Do we have mother and daughter on set?
You need to ask.
They look exactly like each other. This is the carbon copy of her mother.
I know.
Very
Okay, madam, let me start. I mean, for the benefit of our viewers, what is cancer? Because many Nigerians just hear cancer and they give it all kinds of names. Yes. What exactly is it?
Well, cancer is, to put it in layman's terms, is a growth. All the parts of our body grow, and after a certain point in time, they stop growing. You stop getting taller, the cells stop growing. But literally what cancer does, the cancer cells don't stop growing. If somebody has breast cancer, it just, the cells are mutated, so they keep growing, and then they take over the normal cells in the body. So the function of that particular organ cannot carry it out, because instead of having normal cells, it has cancer cells. That's pretty much what it is.
Well, I mean, I have quite a lot to say on this subject because cancer it's a topic that's affected my family. And knowing that Nigeria is leading the rate across Africa at over 80%, but we have countries like Rwanda that are doing so much in order to make sure that this is mitigated. How can we help our people to better prevent these tumor growths?
There's a multifaceted approach to it. First, awareness, which a lot of it is being done right now. People are being told, go and examine your breast, to have your prostate examined and things like that, simply so that they can catch the cancer early. So catching the cancer early is one way of reducing the fatality. Because it's not that there's no cancer in other countries, they're just managed. If somebody has a stage 4 cancer, they can live for years and years and years because they're being managed properly. So that's one thing. So we have the awareness, which is going on. The area where we have the issue is when there is a cancer diagnosis and the treatment. The gap between the diagnosis and the treatment, sometimes it's long. And like I said, the cancer cells just continue to grow. So if it's not being treated, it's growing through that organ, it's growing to other organs around it, or through the bloodstream to other parts of the body. So you want to reduce that gap between diagnosis and treatment, and which is what St. Cyril is doing.
And the findings that we were discussing show that cervix cancer, prostate cancer, and breast cancer are amongst the top 3 cancers in Nigeria. And I wanted to ask if that is for any particular reason, or if that's a global thing, because globally, it also does seem like breast cancer, prostate cancer are the main types of cancers out there, or the most prevalent types of cancers. What's your take on that?
Cervical being the
yes, exactly.
Yes, they are the most common in most parts of the world. Then you have ones that are specific to areas, like for Africans, you can have liver cancer that's a higher incidence, or pancreatic cancer that's a higher incidence, or an area where they're eating a particular spice, or they're smoking a lot, that might have a higher incidence of lung cancers. But globally, you are right. It's the cervix, prostate, and breast cancers that are most prevalent.
Buki, let me bring you into the conversation. I mean, Africans always say, something must kill somebody. That's the general belief out there. But, I mean, are there steps that can be taken in terms of lifestyle to prevent cancer? And can cancer actually be prevented?
Well, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a professional in terms of being able to tell when or how people get cancers. But I think healthy lifestyle choices across board are always a better decision. There aren't strong links between, because you did this, this is why you got this cancer. But I think that it's just being able to sustain healthy lifestyle choices will definitely decrease your likelihood of developing, at least, far-reaching or advanced cancer. So taking care of yourself, exercising, eating well, all of those things.
Not smoking. I heard the smoking.
Not alcohol consumption.
Less alcohol.
In moderation. Everything in moderation except for smoking.
Exactly.
Smoking is a no-no.
Let's go on a quick break and we'll come back to this conversation. Do stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us in our Lagos studio is Mojisola Animashaun, founder and executive director of St. Cyril Treatment Foundation, and a retired healthcare administrator at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. Also with us is Buki Animashaun, who is a visual artist and a social impact investor. Mr. Animashaun, well, you were trying to add to what Buki had said about lifestyle choices.
Yes.
And you were condemning smoking. People who love tobacco out there may not be too pleased.
Well, it's not me condemning it. It's science condemning it. Of all the things that we talked about that can cause cancer, irrevocably, it's that can cause most cancers. It's not just lung cancer.
Is marijuana safe? Is it safe for consumption?
On that, may I plead the fifth?
I think we'd all like to plead the fifth on that one.
Honestly, I would.
But speaking of causes, from my understanding, infections like hepatitis and HPV can also exacerbate cancer within the body. Mm-hmm. Why is that so?
Cancer is a very complex disease, and there isn't a particular, you can have somebody who has the HPV and they don't get cancer, and then another person with exactly the same conditions and they do. It's just, once these things have been identified, and in the case of HPV, you can get the vaccination. That's another area that they've worked on, that when you get the vaccination before a child starts having sexual intercourse, they can reduce the risk. Men carry the disease, apparently, and women get it.
Right.
Is cancer infectious?
No, it's not in, this is the very broad sense. It's not infectious as in once somebody has HPV and then they sleep with somebody else, they're going to get it. It's not infectious in that way at all, not like in HIV or something like that. It's not infectious. But it can be from one family member. If one family member has the breast cancer, for instance, there's a higher risk of another family member. It's probably you have the genes, not the infection, but can be in the genes. So it's best to start taking care of yourself a little earlier than somebody who doesn't have any family history of it. But infection, as in getting the disease, no.
Now, it's reported that 70% of deaths from cancer occur in low and middle income countries. Now, beyond that, 2010 statistics show that globally, it costs the world $1.16 trillion to take care of the cancer problem globally that we're facing. How relative is that figure to Nigeria? What is the cost of treatment for cancer like here at home?
Well, those numbers are unfortunately, from a more organized society. We really don't have the exact numbers of how many people get cancer, exact numbers of how many are treated and how many. We just know that many of the ones that that come to the clinics or come to the hospital, which I personally feel that they're like maybe 20% of the people who get cancers, and the others go to churches and go to, the herbalist and stuff like that. It still is an expensive, any which way you look at it, it's an expensive disease to look after, because a lot of the times is long-term care. Radiation therapy is expensive, the chemo drugs are expensive. So in Nigeria, we're talking about billions of naira. of money that is spent within the country, and then those that go outside of the country because they don't have the facilities to get the treatment here.
It's interesting because that was going to be my exact next point, is the fact that, leading on from Layla's question about the amount of money that's spent at home in Nigeria, but we know that most Nigerians that can afford it, go to India for treatment. Why is India the choice, the preferred choice, if you will?
Well, it's not actually the preferred, it's just the best compromise of having the technology there and at a cheaper price than going to the UK or the US. But it's not that it's any better than the US or the UK, but it's just in terms of it's closer and the cost of it is cheaper.
So how do we gain the same sort of access on ground in the country?
Exactly. You support St. Cyril Cancer Treatment Foundation.
I love the plug.
It's true.
Okay, let me come back to you. You are described as a social impact investor. I mean, that's a new one on me. What's social impact investment all about?
So it's pretty much I just lend my time and resources to causes and businesses that are doing social impact work, social entrepreneurship, specific things. So if I'm going to support something, I like it to have a social impact cause. And cancer treatment is one of the strongest ones, besides the fact that this is my mom. It's like I've seen my mom work, like my whole life, and I've seen what it means for, to go, she has long-term patients, and she's worked in the US and the UK and in Nigeria and in all these different places. Cancer is not an easy thing for anybody to encounter, but it's even harder here where you don't have support services. Like having to go to India to get treated means you're away from your family and people who can support you while you're going through this long-term, very intense experience. So it's important to me that I can support being able to get people treated here close to home with things that they're comfortable with and they understand, because that's part of being able to heal yourself, is being around things that make you feel comfortable. So,
well, I mean, I guess you are, of course, as you have said, part of the St. Cyril Treatment Foundation.
I'm actually not. I am. My project is called the Ann Thomas Project, and that's what I use to do my social impact investment work. And it's basically helping people to get their businesses off the ground. Some of it is mentorship, some of it is like resource management, business development. It depends on what the businesses need. And for St. Cyril, we're supporting the St. Cyril Initiative for Patient Support, which is a subsidy fund to help people get treatment quicker. Because from the diagnosis to treatment phases, some people just don't have the cash flow and they just will wait until they can raise the money. And all that time that they're spending is the cancer, the cancer is getting worse. So the fund is to help them kind of bridge the gap, to sit with people and say, okay, what can you pay now and what can you pay next? So helping to raise funds for that, I feel like, is kind of getting to the crux of the issue, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm trying to support specifically.
So these loans or grants that you give to these people?
It depends on what the need is. If the person needs a grant, then they can be considered for it. If the person just needs oh, I have a job so I can pay a certain amount every month, then it's just, okay, we can cover the cost as you pay, I will make a deal with the treatment centers. So it depends on what the patient needs. And it involves having a counselor and having somebody who's sitting with you and talking to you about your exact situation and finding a solution. So it depends on the patient.
That's brilliant, actually, because social investment is so key. And I was going to bring this point in because it said that we're going to have it's going to increase, the number of new cancer cases is going to increase by 70% over the next 2 decades. And sometimes, everyone knows someone that has gone through cancer or has cancer, seeing as 1 in 6 people have cancer, right? And sometimes you don't know what to do for someone that you love and someone close to you that you care about, because there's only so much that you can do because you're not a medic. So let's talk about that and ways in which people can show support to those that they love who have cancer, because people often feel very, very lost in that space.
I think it's actually important to, if nothing else, a sense of community is more important than people tend to think. Just having people around that you can be vulnerable with around, it's a very sensitive time for people when they're going through cancer treatments. Like people going through chemotherapy, they're losing their hair, they're losing weight, they feel sick all the time, they have to eat specific things. So sometimes people will help with making specific kinds of meals for people, specific dietary restrictions. Some people will just spend time with someone who's not feeling well, or help them take care of their kids if they just don't have the strength to do it. So I think it's specific to the person that, you know, you're trying to help, but being a member of their community, I think finding the thing that you can do is important, and then doing that thing. It can be anything that you know, buy them credits, do whatever it is that's just so, because it's such a time that, like, it's difficult. If they have to ask for help, they're asking every so often, right? So if it's just, you know, checking in and finding out how to help, exactly, I think that goes much further than people tend to assume, and then let the medics do the medical stuff, you know.
Well, speaking of medical work, Doctor, do you have something to say?
Go ahead.
I'm very into alternative and holistic medicine, and from what I understand, cancer is caused by excessive mucus buildup in the body. So what are certain foods, is it alkaline foods that people should be eating in order to counteract that? I'm aware that key limes and red grapes are certain things that you should be eating. Are there anything else that you both are aware of? Dietary restrictions? Huh?
I said you've been on the internet.
I've been listening to Dr. Sebi, actually. We all know how good he is.
It's like I said earlier, just try and keep whatever you eat, A, in moderation, and B, as close to the natural as possible. Right. Try not to overboil your F4 and stuff like that. And not excessive. I had a patient in the US, and I always tell this story. They told her that carrots were good. She came in one day and she was orange from eating so many carrots, because people get paranoid. Once they have the disease or they fear that they're going to get the disease, they just go, you know, and she ate so many carrots.
So that's not a myth,
she had she came in, she was orange. Wow. She had an orange tinge, and we had to say, you know what, slow down on the carrots, okay?
But how good was her eyesight? Did she have 40/20 vision at this point with all that vitamin A?
All my life I thought that was a myth. Like, eat too many carrots and you're going to go orange.
You can.
Wow.
But I mean, it's a lot over a period. She just, you worry because you don't want it to come back. You want to do the best for yourself. But there's a lot out there, a lot of information out there. But what I always say to people is be reasonable. Don't go overboard and keep it as natural as possible.
Is cancer curable? Because,
yes,
you know, many times once people come down with cancer, whether it's benign or malignant, they just conclude that sooner or later, you know, it's a life-threatening disease and it will kill eventually. And, you know, we've heard of cases of relapse. And there are certain circumstances where there will be no relapse. Or anybody that just, you know, comes down with cancer should take it as a death sentence.
No, they should definitely not take it as a death sentence, because first I want to say cancer, if you have cancer, then the disease is malignant. If it's benign, it's treatable and it's curable. That means that it grows, but it doesn't grow uncontrollably like cancer. But cancer is a malignancy, and that malignancy, it can be treated. And that's what one of the things Buki was saying, that if you get a holistic treatment, I have people. Cancer is in 4 stages. You can go from stage 1 to stage 4, stage 4 being the worst. Stage 4 case patients in countries, they can go for years and years. I have a friend, it's almost 10, 12 years now. She has a stage 4 cancer. She climbs, she swims, she does, you know, so it's...
Thank you very much, Mrs. Animashaun Buki. Thank you also. We'll have to bring this to a close at this point. Thank you very much for coming to the morning show.